HCAM programming is supported by viewers like you. Thank you.
And by Angels Garden Center, growing in Hopkinton since 1957.
And by Hopkinton Drug, an integrative pharmacy and community partner since 1954, providing customized compounded medication in their on-site lab, nutritional supplements, and a knowledgeable staff. Hopkinton Drug, believing food, exercise, and community, along with an integrative approach to medicine, can help you achieve your wellness goals.
This is HCAM TV.
It's your hair. It crinkles. It makes a crinkly sound.
Crinkly noise, yeah. Like a cat toy kind of.
Yeah.
And then, what's the other thing? Oh, it kind of hurts my ears at the end of the day, but I assume that I'll get used to that
I
part.
think so. Yeah, even glasses.
Yeah, it'd be
Put
like
'em on,
getting
right? Like there
glasses.
are different things that it takes your brain a little while, then it does too, but it can hurt
Yeah.
in places, that you just.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, good evening. My name is Amy Ritterbusch, and I call the meeting to order for the Hopkins Select Board, October 11th, 2022. This meeting is held both in person and remotely using the video conference platform Zoom. Let's see, we don't know for sure if Shaidul will be remote, so should I go with the script for if they're in the room, I guess, or? Okay. All right. So all members participating in the meeting are present in the meeting room. The public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in this meeting's agenda. The meeting is being recorded. All right. And our first item on the agenda is to move to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Section 30A, or Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to consider strategy with respect to litigation, Wall Street Development Corporation versus the Town of Hopkinton Board of Appeals, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the board. And second, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to consider strategy with respect to negotiations with non-union personnel, the town manager and police chief, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board. 3, to approve executive session minutes from September 13th, 2022, to allow Norman Khumalo and Elaine Lazarus to participate in the executive session, and to reconvene an open session at the conclusion of executive session. And we will do a roll call vote since.
So moved.
Yes.
Oh, we need a second?
Second.
Okay, and then, go ahead.
In front of you, yes?
Yes, really, yes?
Muriel Kramer, yes.
Amy Ritterbusch, yes? Okay, we'll be back. Okay. Okay, good evening. I'm Amy Ritter-Bush, and the Select Board has just returned from executive session. I call the meeting in open session to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And next is our public forum. Be quick. Well, you never know, people might join. You never know. Okay, please note that each person will have up to 2 minutes to speak at public forum. Please start by stating your name and address. Is there anyone present in the room who would like to speak at public forum? Oh, there is. Mary Jo,
this is the original Veterans Day, and I just wanted to give my thanks for the dedication of all the veterans and everything they've done for the country, including Mrs. Kramer.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Okay. All right, and there is no one on Zoom for public comment either? Okay, so we can check that off. Okay, the next item would be the consent agenda. We have 3 items, and anyone can let me know if they would like to pull them out. We have the minutes to approve, the minutes from September 13th, September 20th, and September 29th. We have a donation to accept to the fire department from Sybil Long in memory of William Gorman. And we have a marathon fund request for $9,000 for 6 scholarships to Hopkinton residents graduating from Hopkinton High School in not necessarily Hopkinton High School, but Hopkinton residents graduating from high school 2023, with each scholarship valued at $1,500. Would anyone like to pull items out for discussion?
No. Any question? This is scholarship money, is BAA related money, right? Okay.
Okay. And then any comments or a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay, any discussion?
Second.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
No, any opposed or abstain? Okay, so the next item is the Marathon Invitational Entry Policy. The Select Board will review and set the 2023 Boston Marathon Invitational Entry Policy. The standard policy is included in the meeting packet for the board's review. There were a couple changes, I think, from last time. Is that right?
Yes. In fact, thanks to Amy, I will be sharing a couple changes that have been made to the proposed 2023 Boston Marathon Invitational Entry Program. By way of context, I refer the board to the marathon policy. The marathon policy requires the board each year to define a procedure for managing the invitational entry program. And so what you are acting on today is that requirement, where you set the policy, we then invite applications, and then we bring everybody back to review the applications that have come in, and at that point, distribute the entries. These are entries that, as we have proved over the years, have brought substantial benefit to the community. And thus, throughout the process, we are looking for transparency, efficiency, accountability, and most importantly, inclusivity, bringing people in to participate as widely as is allowed by the law. The specific comment that Amy shared with me had to do with a clear distinction between the town departments and the non-profit organizations that do apply. In terms of identifying categories, we're very clear in terms of what are town departments and what are organizations that can apply. However, when it came to outlining in the process, in the policy, the process for distributing the entries, we needed to clarify the language, and that's what we have done. I'll be sharing what changes we've made with you tonight. And then, as part of that also, there are a few things that we identified, namely, there's a section where we say the organizations shall not pass on the invitational entries to any other entity. Which also, as Amy pointed out, may not be clear. Thank you. May not be clear in terms of town departments. However, if you read the first section of the policy or the procedure, it clearly says that town departments are not actively involved in searching runners, but can pass those invitational entries to organizations who then identify runners for them. For example, the police department may issue their invitational entry to a neighboring town department, police department that is providing services here, who then identify the runner for the police department. So we have made that distinction clear that organizations shall not pass on their invitational entries to any other entity. However, town departments can do so. There was then also the discussion regarding the non-profits that can benefit from this program. We've been clear in terms of the town is looking for applications from registered non-profits. Policy may not say that, however, the forms that we distribute expressly ask, are you a registered non-profit? The other piece too, and this is up to the board's discretion, we have different types of non-profits. We have the 501c3, we have the 501c4, and thus, in the past, there has been a reluctance to include the 501c4 because those organizations can make political donations. However, it's up to the board to decide whether you want to build some four corners around if we were to expressly allow 501c4, what would be the parameters? All that will then be left to is whatever the board decides to do. Would it be fair? Would it be reasonable? Would it be efficient? And would it be practicable? I hope, Amy, I captured all the discussion points.
I think so. I have my own comments that I'll add too. Shall I go first since I brought up the issues? Like, so we previously used to say on the program policy that organizations undertaking public services activities within the Hopkinton. So the proposed change would be nonprofit organizations, 501c3, undertaking public service activities within the town of Hopkinton. And I really like the previous language because it allowed us to give more flexibility. Like the food pantry came to us and also wanted a number. They're not a separate nonprofit. I mean, in full disclosure, EHOP is a 501c4, not a 501c3. So they've received numbers in the past but wouldn't be eligible. And this way, the Moms Club is a 501c7. So they, again, don't fall under that umbrella either. And then I think some of the high school clubs are not necessarily 501c3s either. It costs money and time to become a 501c3. So I personally like the language that was more flexible in letting us make that decision based on who applies. But I don't mind asking the question, like if you are a nonprofit, please upload your form and we can use that as a data point when making our decision. That was my thought. You can think about that. And the other, I was a little concerned about it's been in the policy before where we say we're going to distribute them based on a random selection, but in my experience we haven't really distributed them randomly. We have kind of given it a thoughtful, I didn't think random was quite the right word, because if we got 100 entries, I don't think we would draw out of a hat, or I wouldn't like to do that. I might say, I think Project Just Because really needs a number. And I might not give it to lacrosse if there were way too many entries, even though, I like the lacrosse program as well. Right. I just thought it should be a thoughtful, not necessarily random process. So, let's see. And then I thought it would be good to add an optional question on the form for the town departments to answer, or to give examples of who they have given their numbers to in the past, because I know we had asked that last year and they hadn't supplied that, so that they couldn't get that, and not that anyone objected, just people are curious where are the numbers going. I think they'd be happy to know. I just thought it would be good to have an optional question. So I think those are my comments. And I just felt bad last year how the school department had applied under the town department section last time and were rejected from that. But then they didn't, again, they hadn't filled out that question saying what they were going to use them for. And we didn't know if it was for a club or for a graduating class or what. So I thought that would be another good, perhaps optional question, or that's the same optional question. So those are my thoughts. I'll let other people
So,
weigh
through
in.
the chair, I agree with the first thing that you're saying, I think requiring a 501c3 or 4 or 7 designation, I think is a bit too restrictive, and it's not how we've done it in the past. I like the idea of, just an organization that supports the community. I think the food pantry last year was one of those issues where we said, we want to give it to them, but we don't want to get hung up in our own words, in our own, specificities as to what's required. Yeah.
Through the chair. We also did, it says that they can apply for 2 entries, but we also took an entry away so that we could give it to another organization because they already had one. We looked thoroughly at these things, and it wasn't that we didn't want to give 2 necessarily, but when we have so many applicants and just so many, we had to take a look at it, and I know we took away a couple of entries from a couple of people who had more than one to give them to someone else who needed one. They might have been under a different name, like the Senior Center, Friends of the Seniors, or something like that.
Right.
So they were under different names, but they were still getting 2. So we wound up, I think, was giving it to the food bank.
Yeah.
But we gave one to the senior center and one to the, as a town department, and one to the Friends of the Seniors as an organization. So they got 2, but not 3, I guess.
Yeah, 2, not 3, yeah.
So,
Well, you looked concerned with what I had just said.
No, I'll let...
thank you. So I actually really appreciate this discussion, and I appreciate the focus on, inclusion and equity and making sure it's open and predictable for everybody, and I really appreciate everybody's points here. And I wonder, I don't really particularly want it to be restrictive, and I wonder if we really want a single organization, no matter how fabulous they are, to get a couple when other organizations don't get any.
Right.
And I wonder if there's a way, not to overly complicate it, but it isn't random. We discussed it at length, and I appreciated that people answered my questions because I didn't understand the process last year, and I don't know if there's a way to wait, like you do even on like proposals and so forth, like, wait applicants, maybe a little less if they're the second from the same organization, but under a different hat or different umbrella, or, 501c organizations. I don't even know what a 501c7 is, by the way.
It's a club.
It's designation for charitable.
But maybe there's a way to weight applications. Like local organizations like the food pantry, right? We're all trying to figure out how to make sure that our food pantry got support and or had the opportunity, and certainly. I want to consider school clubs if there are bibs to go around. Like sometimes it's a scarcity thing, but if there are bibs to go around, I don't want to be turning people away either for all these wonderful things.
I don't think we've ever had excess.
We're not expecting that to happen, huh?
My thought is, allowing people the opportunity to apply for two, but maybe very, very clear right at the beginning that they may not get two. That just because you apply isn't any surety that you're going to get one. And I like to see most everybody who applies get one first, and then we'll see what happens
And, yeah,
with the
just
second one.
through you, Madam Chair, just like, we had that situation where it's two different organizations, but it's the same.
Going to the same
generally
the same level.
firm, yeah.
So,
Did some recommended modifications there.
Yeah, food pantry, which is just because they are a registered non-profit.
They weren't last year?
no.
There was one that was not registered.
Yeah, it was not the food pantry.
Yeah, no,
It was
because
the,
I listened to the tape, like they,
You have one
So
like a
probably just
brain
because it's
tumor or something that wasn't anywhere,
well, they're registered, but not, maybe not here, but it's a Hopkinton chapter.
but we did get them a number.
But,
Yeah.
so the pantry wasn't its own separate entity, so it was, I guess, maybe a question whether they could apply for two, one for Project Just Because and one for the food pantry.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the case. The reason, historically, there's been an emphasis on working with registered non-profits is accountability. But if the entity says they are raising funds for purpose X, that the funds are actually used for that. And that's the reason why we've placed this emphasis on the organizations need to be registered. In terms of, yes, applying for two, we are very clear, apply for two, but the board will decide after receiving all the applications how many will be distributed. The other factor is that in the last 4 years, for lack of a better phrase, I will say we've been raiding the town departments for invitational entries to support the increased number
The
of
increasing
applications.
Community organization.
Yes, I'm doing that, but I can share with the community that we're running out of runway. Yes, we're running out of runway now, and so clearly, we may be in a situation now where we will be receiving more applications than the entries that are available to distribute.
Right.
So that's why I think the pitch is, we may want to maintain the language random distribution.
But maintain the language of random distribution?
Yes.
But to me, if we had more entries than we had numbers, I definitely wouldn't want to do it randomly, because that might mean Project Just Because wouldn't get one, because it would just be randomly. That's a, that's a.
Random implies that we have no say.
We have no,
That we pick names out of a hat.
Yeah, that's what I think,
That's what we're asking for.
he's trying to take the subjective
Yes.
right out of it.
Exactly, because if we do otherwise, to come up with rationale on the fly would be
Yep.
very difficult. And also, to make up the rules as the game is being played, I think takes away people's ability to apply. Somebody may say, if I had known the rules were X, I would have applied. So that's my pitch for maintaining the random distribution.
So that would only be the case, excuse me, if we had more applicants than entries, right?
Yeah.
And if we were to just give out one to every applicant at this point, we would have more entries than applicants.
No.
or usually
No?
just.
Not
last
today?
time was just exactly, I think.
Remember my comment that we've been rating the department invitation
Okay,
entries to.
Okay,
Yeah, so we are there already. In the past years, we've been taking away from
okay.
From where?
the town departments.
departments.
Like-
Yeah, we took away from fire, we took away from police, we took away from library, we took away from senior center, I think, believe 1 year. Yeah.
If that's the case, then I withdraw my previous comment that maybe we do need to be a bit more restrictive as to who can apply. And then, once we have that pool, pull the names out of our hat.
So, I'm sorry, is it new that departments or organizations may only apply under one category?
That
No,
was the same last year.
we've had that before.
So even with that,
Yeah.
we have sort of dual entries under the same umbrella.
Yeah, because the library is applying for the two support organizations, the senior center is
Yeah.
applying for their support organization.
There've been attempts to do that.
And now they would only be able to apply for up to 2 at the most? Or what's the stipulation?
Good question.
Thank you.
Town departments are not restricted.
Ah, okay.
Yes. Yeah. It's based on history. The
Yes.
allocation has been based on history.
Yeah, and which we treasure and value and honor. So how many entries, how many bids do we get?
50, I think.
50.
Yeah.
Yes.
And based on tradition and history, how many would town departments typically get?
It's about,
Is that here?
Quickly,
so last year there were 8 for the police department, 1 for the fire department, I think it ended up being 1 for the senior center, 1 for the library, 5 for the marathon committee, and 1 for the veterans celebration committee.
Through the chair, the town departments in the past have used the numbers on occasion for the support team
Right,
that they get from other towns.
Oh, yes.
right.
It's an attraction to bring them in to work for us.
Yep.
So it's a little different than just giving money for that department. They're using it to back up their staff, which we need.
In all town departments, I think if you look at the record, because we do ask receiving organizations to report, the records will show that the marathon committee, the police department, the fire department, the senior center, they distribute those numbers to
Right.
entities that support the marathon.
So last year, this is the distribution, but we took 1 away from the police, so they would have gotten 9.
No, we didn't
took
take any.
one-
No, we
We didn't
didn't.
take any from the police.
We took 1 from the senior center, 1 from the library.
Oh, and we didn't take 1 from the fire department.
Prior years we did. Prior years we took from fire, we took from police. They used to receive more than what they're receiving now.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. I'm catching up very slowly.
Time to hit up the BAA for a few more.
Seriously, what are they without us?
Yeah. No, it goes without saying, this year, thanks to Amy, she made the pitch, reached out to the BAA, got the confirmation that the town was receiving the same number of invitational entries. Prior year, it was IFAN, and previous years, it was the previous board chairs. It's something that we do annually. Town is not guaranteed to receive these invitational entries every year.
Okay.
So, do we need to vote on,
I would like to vote, I mean, I might make a motion for my suggested changes, and if you guys don't approve them, then we'll just vote on as is, I guess. Does that make sense?
I'm totally fine with that.
so your change, wait, so you would,
I could spell them out specifically.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would prefer that on the 2 categories, the second category, instead of reading nonprofit organizations, 501c3, would read organizations undertaking public service activities
Take
within the
out the
town.
501c3.
Yeah, I would be okay with adding, like, this is just me, preference may be given to registered nonprofits or something like that. Let's see, and then the other, and I really am still uncomfortable.
Sorry, through the chair. May I suggest something that
Yeah.
may perhaps get to way again? B, perhaps should be registered non-profit organizations. Then we remove the 541c3 designation.
Yeah, we could do that, except
yeah.
last year we had the Freedom Team who had applied for a nonprofit status but had not received their determination from the IRS, so they would not have been eligible last year under that.
Yeah.
I know, it's tough. And there could be other new organizations that come up this year that would be in the
So
same boat.
if
You said the high school.
this helps, that change, I support, if this helps you.
Okay. So not registered nonprofit organizations
Yeah.
rather than 501c3. Okay. But that would mean if there's a brand-new charity in town that didn't have their determination,
For right now, but
they would, this following year, they could.
we'll run this race again.
What's it?
We'll run the race
Okay.
again.
We'll run the race again, through the chair. I understand what you're saying, that, there may be other nonprofit organizations, but, you can squeeze into that bucket and have all sorts of nefarious intentions with it. I'm all for, you could have an organization that's promoting racism or something, I don't know what, I'm just
Not the
picking
reason why I
something.
don't like the term random selection either, because
But, if, anyone can come up with, I believe in blah, 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 and none of us really think that that's a worthy cause, and they're not registered 501c3, well, anyone can just come up with whatever excuse they want for having an organization. At least if we just have this one extra step that you gotta go ahead and get registered and be for real, not some fly-by-night organization, quote-unquote organization. So I kinda like the 501c3.
Does the 501c cover it? Are they all within 501c?
It's about a little process to become.
No, I understand, but is 501c its own category that's definable, or do you have to have the 3s and the 4s and the 7s?
you have to apply under one of the subsections.
No,
Yeah.
I know, for this purpose, I'm sorry, I'm not asking my question correct. For this purpose, does a 501c organization satisfy?
If I may answer that directly?
Yes, please.
Registered means you're a 501c.
Thank you. Okay, there we go. Okay. So we could even say registered 501c.
But then that could include political things,
Exactly.
right? You could have a super PAC,
Right.
to stop the steal.
It undertakes public service activities within
I
the town of
know, I got
Hopkinton.
it. I got it, I'm following your logic.
Yeah.
But I don't have the same sense of worry about that nefarious groups taking over, but now that I've said that out loud, something will happen for sure.
And churches are 501c3s, so our churches would be allowed to apply too, right?
Yeah.
Even if we kept the 501c3 restriction.
Church
I
says
think the phrase registered nonprofit organization
Okay. Well, I'm
allows us to move forward.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
How about that?
Okay. Irfan is uncomfortable with that, or?
I'm not sure. So a registered non-profit would include super PACs, right? I'm uncomfortable with that.
Okay, even if undertaking public service activities within the town of Hopkinton.
Yeah, but undertaking public service activities is like, this is public service to reinstate Trump.
That's deal.
It's not the steal. Oh, that's a public service within the town. Of course it is.
Yeah,
I'm not comfortable with that.
okay.
You guys can outvote me.
Yeah, right. I'm okay with it. Mary Jo, it kind of comes down to you and I can't.
Right.
You're welcome.
The one thing that we need that their service and activities are within the town of Hopkinton, fully. And I think that makes it, that would cut out some of these.
Or like the Brain Tumor Organization?
Yeah.
But it did have a
It is
chapter in
nice, but
Hopkinton.
they're not a Hopkinton organization. And I think that has to be the first thing, because this marathon is here, it's been here for years, and, like the scholarships we just released the money for, I mean, the VA is real specific about wanting those 6 scholarships, or taking our money and going home, but that's the one thing they want, is that. And I think that if they're gonna give us 50, and then the problem is service within the town. Is it forever, or is it just for the day? Because the police and fire are giving the numbers to other departments for them coming and working for the day.
But it's activities for
And
the
you have to.
benefit of the town of Hopkinton, right? So
Yeah.
those are departments undertaking activities for the benefit of the town of Hopkinton. If our police department shares those bibs with other police departments that serve
Yeah,
On that day.
on that day,
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
I think that's okay.
I
Yeah.
think that's unaffected. I think it's the local nonprofit part that we're talking about.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So the local nonprofit part, you know, having it a 501c3 kind of keeps the spirit of how we've always done it, that we have local charities that we want to benefit. And we don't want it being, in my mind, I don't want to see it going to some cause that is not truly charitable. And I think having the 501c3 does that for us. It keeps it in that nonprofit, purely charitable cause, that's how we've always gone.
But it's
And I would
not how
see
we've
it
always
like
gone, it's how, this would be the first time that we were.
Right, but I mean, that's the spirit. We've always kind of gone with someone that's, you know, truly charitable, whether it be a food pantry, you know, whatever organizations that we've chosen. They've been truly charitable causes. I just don't want to see that get hijacked.
Well, most legitimate charities are 501c3 or at least apply.
This gets revisited every year.
Yes.
And somewhat torturously so.
So long as we're, well, now it's going to be random.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, so,
Why don't you go ahead and make your motion, your suggestions,
Okay, so,
so we can move this forward.
okay, so my suggestion, I mean, the first one would be to replace nonprofit organizations 501c3 with registered nonprofit organizations undertaking public service activities within the town of Hopkinton. So shall we let's just vote on that, so that part, if we do, is it, anyone second that motion to make that change?
I'll second that.
So how do we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so it doesn't pass, so, okay. All right. And then my other motion would be to replace the word random selection with, let's see, the transparent public process. So, there'd be a
So
second.
I'm actually leaning hard towards random selection.
Okay. Okay, so then that motion does not pass. So if someone who's not me wants to make a motion to approve the policy as written, or any other changes or
But it's not
discussion?
really a random selection, that's my
But
problem.
that's the thing, that's what.
It says random is pulling that out of the hat.
It's going to be, you're talking about making it a
That's what he's
random
suggesting.
Yes.
You're talking about changing the way we do it.
What's that?
We're talking about
talking about
changing the way
changing
we
the way
did it
we do it.
last year.
It's always been written this way, but we haven't done it this way.
So, can I ask another question? I don't mean to make this harder, but can we only have one entry versus multiple entries for this random selection? Because it feels like we want to, I mean, we don't want to pull two for one organization.
And zero for another.
Yeah, correct. The policy allows the board on the day of the distribution to limit the number. So in other words, if project just because he has applied for two, they will only have one that night if the board decides to only limit it to one. Again, all of this is done knowing that at the time the policy is formulated, we don't know how many people will apply. Yeah.
So they can apply for two, but we can decide that everybody only gets one.
Yes,
Into the random drawing.
yes. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's more fair to do it randomly than, I know we try really hard to be fair, but I think that it's hard to, we all have our favorites.
I agree. That keeps us all honest.
It just,
It keeps us honest and picking our, you know, our pets. So, I would move to accept the policy as proposed in the October 5th memo from Mr. Kamala.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm a no. Okay, and so the next item on the agenda.
You want me to report?
Town managers report. Okay.
Yeah, through the chair, I included the update from Michelle and Dave in the meeting packet. Unfortunately, because the meeting production date was one day earlier, at that time, when we published the agenda, they had not yet formulated the work for this week. However, the construction advisory that went out on Friday and was shared widely with the public included the activities for this week. New staffing update. I included in the town manager a couple ideas. The first one relates to the Youth and Family Services Department. As we have seen in the past years, especially owing to the impact of COVID-19, the demands on that department are increasing daily and routinely. Currently, we have the director who's full-time, the social worker who's 30 hours, the program coordinator full-time, recently approved a town meeting, and then there are other 2 grant-funded positions, the drug-free communities coordinator full-time, and the prevention coordinator, mass call part A, only 10 hours. The proposal that I'm sharing with the board will create a full-time position that will focus largely on case management, and case management focusing on issues that this town has prioritized, beginning with what do we do to prepare our kids for pre-K? What do we do for our kids who are already in school, especially those who may be in high school, looking for example, some support systems to help them through school, as well as we all know, that's the time when young people start looking for jobs. And then the other piece that has come out as a priority in the last 2-3 years has to do with housing. We now have a large market of people who are renting in town. We found out when Elaine set up the rental and mortgage support program under the COVID as well as CPC funding regimes. We learned very quickly that there is need for us to think long and hard about how best to support our renters, especially those who are on fixed income. And so clearly we are discussing creating this position that will focus on providing a direct services in the areas that I've identified. I included a rough outline of the responsibilities in the town manager's report. Any questions on this one before we move on to the one in the town manager's office?
I don't have any questions, but through you, Madam Chair, I just, this really makes me proud to see this particular department. All departments are important, but this particular department growing in such purpose. I think that people who need these supports and services sometimes feel a little bit, or may feel a little bit invisible as a priority, and it is really wonderful to see that that is not the case, that there's a lot of priority being given to supports and services to needy individuals and families.
Again, as I stated in the town manager's memo, this position is currently not funded. However, we're looking at moving funds from some other line items to support this if we move forward. And then in the town manager's office, we all have heard, we all have heard the pleas for the town to do some work around economic development. And simultaneously, most recently, I had been discussing with you Hopkinton Sustainable Green Committee about sustainability issues and how we put together a climate action plan. And then thirdly, after signing the pledge, we have asked everybody to focus on equity. And so I'm taking an existing position in the town manager's office, reimagining it to focus on economic development, sustainability, and equity. Why this makes sense, at least to me, is that we know very well that the economic growth that this town is looking for has to be sustainable, and it also has to be equitable. I did review, from my review of the town's strategic plans, it's pretty clear that this community desires to pursue economic development strategies that are grounded on fit, sustainability, and equity. Further, the town status as a certified green community and its commitment to climate change has opened up opportunities to redefine the nature of economic development, to expressly incorporate social equity and sustainability. The town's emergency as a destination for biotech firms and the attendant incentives offered by the town have compelled us to balance economic growth with sustainability and equity, especially if you look at the last TIF agreements that we signed with Lichen. We put a great deal of emphasis on equity in many ways. And so it is against this background that I honestly believe that based on the needs that we're hearing, we can move this position forward. It's an existing position already funded. We can move it reimagined and reconfigured to focus on economic development, sustainability, and equity. That's my pitch.
Awesome.
Well,
Does anyone have any questions or comments on that?
Through the chair, just a question, comment on the Main Street corridor. I haven't really seen much going on this week. I know it's only Tuesday, but are they winding down? Or I know that the report seems to be saying that there's ongoing activity. I just haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
Maybe it's happening
They
where,
definitely was about cement.
beyond where I am.
The bulk of the work has been on the eastern
Okay.
side of the project area, doing the underground connections. And Dave is working with the Mass DOT representatives, our public safety departments, to answer the question that has come up from the public. Can our public safety vehicles traverse the corridor with ease? And that's an issue that we are now looking into, discussing extensively, and we will be reporting to the public about the outcome of the research that is being done now.
That is a question, or I mean, a concern I've heard a lot, so I guess putting some publicity out there on that.
I heard a call in the grocery store the other day by a former select person, actually. And they said I had better move that sidewalk, and not just for the safety reasons. He said, where's the snow gonna go? And then he said, all those people that live along there, nobody can pull up in front of their house and even drop something off. There is no breakdown lane on one side of that road at all for anybody to pull over, even for 5 minutes. And, I mean, if I lived in one of those houses and nobody ever could park in front of my house, I'd be kind of upset. And then they said, what about the snow and the snow plows, and where's it gonna go? You're gonna go up on the sidewalk, and then you're gonna have to move it from the sidewalk to the front lawns, and it's just too small. It's just too, I know what they're gonna do, and I know public safety isn't the issue, but it will be when we have snow, and it will be for people, because they're going to park in front of somebody's house just to run in for 5 minutes no matter what, and it's going to be a mess, going to be going around them. That's all, I go up there and I say, I can't get out of 2 lanes, and I go, if anything happened to my car, I couldn't pull over anywhere. The sidewalk is right there.
Yeah.
There's like a foot.
But, I mean, that's how it is on Grove Street where I live. Nobody can pull over in front of my house. There's nowhere for the snow to go. They have a plan and they deal with it. I don't know. It's different, I guess, if you're used to living on Main Street where you had more room.
It's Main Street. I just think it...
But just many cities have streets of that size. It's not a new thing, really, and it's new for this area. Okay. All right, anyway, go ahead.
No, I think we covered everything. I wanted to make the pitch for DPW. Here in town, we've preached that when we say public safety, we include DPW, police and fire. So yes, I was including plowing operations, part of this conversation as well.
Okay. And, let's see. Is there a PFAS update or a?
No PFAS and as well as MWRA connection updates this week.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Just last time. Okay. Oh, I feel like I had another Main Street question, but anyway, I thought it was, this was it. It was helpful what was in the packet about, it's in Michelle's report, I think, that I just wanted to read it out loud for the public. We said this in previous meetings, that the completion date is October 2023. It says Phase 1 and 2 of the Main Street reconstruction has been completed, which was the work focused on the area from West Main to the 135-85 intersection. Let's see. And the Phase 3 will start after the Boston Marathon. But sidewalk work and curbing on Main Street will continue until the weather prevents them from continuing. So that should be completed by the end of this season. What was the other one? Oh, and the traffic signals. So the Wood Street traffic signals are up and working, everyone has seen, but the traffic signals at 85 and 135 are in progress and supposed to be updated up in the next 2 weeks. So that's really good, because we've probably all seen this. We approach that light. If you're the first car in line, you cannot see the left turn arrow. So anyway, that'll be good. And then, what was, I feel like there was one other item related to that. Oh, the poles. So we have, in the area where we're not burying the poles, there are currently double poles. So will those be able to be taken down, do we know, this season, or not till next season?
No, not until next season.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Okay.
But are the double poles going as part of this?
Yeah, general question. Town staff had a meeting with our colleagues from Eversource. It was a very productive meeting. One of the topics we discussed was reinvigorating a process that we had in place for monitoring and tracking the double poles in town through a program called Engines, and we are back now doing that. The second piece of our meeting focused on the quality of communication during emergency events, and clearly Chief made his point strongly, and the response we received from Eversource was that they will continue making sure that they provide us with the direct communication regarding our support here in town, as well as giving us access to their, for lack of a better phrase, 911 center, the communication, and then also, I should say this, that the last 3 weeks I was working with Eversource and Verizon in facilitating the move by our food pantry to their new location. And both Eversource and Verizon came through.
Yeah.
Verizon was able to install a pole on 1 day's notice. Eversource, a process that will normally take 6 months, they completed, or just about to complete it in 3 weeks. And that then facilitated Project Just Because moving into their location. They got their occupancy, the developer received their occupancy permit, and thus PJB was able to secure the loan to move into the new property. Again, we rarely say such positive stories about investors, but in this case, honestly, they were the difference maker. They came through. The individuals we were working with were very cooperative and very understanding, and delivered.
That's good news.
That's good news, yep. And then I heard this concern in the community, but it sounds like from the report it won't be an issue. It took a long time, very long time to get that Chestnut Street light turned on, so people are skeptical that they will get the downtown light turned on in 2 weeks, but the report indicates they will, right?
Wasn't there a problem with the tree on somebody's property on Chestnut Street? It had to be taken down and taken out, and that's what delayed it, because they didn't want it.
That was,
They didn't
I
want
think, part of it, but the light
Yes.
fixture was there, just sitting there off for a long time, too.
Yeah, yeah, again, it had to do with the utilities, bringing less power to the new unit. Yeah,
Fingers crossed.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about anything else in this town manager's report?
Good.
All right, then we have the goal setting for FY '23. So, Michelle, you're doing that here, that's a little tough. I don't know if we
Yeah,
could do a
so-
preliminary discussion?
Through the chair, I mean, I think, when we set our goals previously, we had a facilitator to kind of help us along. And, we got our packet, Thursday, gave us over the weekend to give it some thought. I don't know about anyone else here, but I didn't give it any thought.
Okay.
So, I think maybe if we could punt this or kind of put it on the radar for us all to come up with some ideas. Maybe you could give us assignments as to submitting ideas for goals. And that way we can include Charter on that as well.
I think there's a timeliness issue though too, because they're helpful for the budget development, correct?
Yes, we are hoping to tie this process to the all-hands meeting. One suggestion is for the board to consider this at its next meeting, which is next Tuesday.
Okay.
The homework being,
Yeah, we could give ourselves homework, yeah.
yes, here's the homework. The homework being either to confirm the goals that were set last year as the goals to continue pursuing. Or if there's a feeling that some new goal needs to be introduced, that the board member tied to the visioning that the town set, and then propose the goal. Based on my quick review, clearly, down the list, mental health remains an issue. Budget, board may need to refine exactly what message you want to send regarding the budget. Climate change, we're just beginning that work with the Sustainable Green Committee. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, continuing going for the town. Water needs, ongoing project. Communication, we absolutely have to keep this on the agenda going forward. And then maintaining the high quality of life during a time of increased growth and development, absolutely still relevant. And then making sure that the public participates in our strategic planning processes in town, whether they're downtown-wide or individual projects. I think that remains a key goal. And then Eversource, clearly a big player in town. And keeping people calm throughout the Main Street Corridor project. So again, based on my review of this list, all these issues are still very relevant. There may be a need to adjust the message regarding the budget, and the board may simply endorse these goals going forward. Or if there's a desire by another board member to introduce a new goal, tie it to the vision statement, and then articulate the goal in the manner that we did, where there's the macro, there's the process, and
So perhaps, so I agree they're all still relevant issues, but they could maybe use fine tuning. Maybe some parts are done and now we need to work on the next item in it. Should we each take two that we would review and recommend suggested changes to for the next meeting? Would that make sense? And if anyone wants to add anything to it, they certainly could bring in a different.
I think we should all of us should take all 10.
Okay.
and see if there's, if, this is just my opinion, but we all take 10 of them and see if we see a need for tweaking, eliminating, or emphasizing, and if we all have, if any of us have additional goals, then we can kind of bring that forward. But in my opinion, I think all 10 goals are still relevant. I don't think any of them are completed, and it's stuff to continue working on. But however, you're the chair, you decide how you want to do it.
Other people, we could all review all of them and send our changes to, or suggested changes to town staff maybe by Thursday, something? We could do all 10, or we could each take 2 in depth, I don't know. How do you guys feel?
I think it's not that exhaustive. I think we can all
Okay.
look at them.
Okay, so can everybody review the goals in the packet? Would Thursday be reasonable if we,
Thursday would be fair.
that's tough for us, though, that's only
Thursday?
Tuesday.
Yeah, it just gives us one day, but I can do it tomorrow, but is that enough time to incorporate into to getting the next,
Well,
back it out?
the packet comes out Friday, so that's pretty late. I mean, we could do it by Monday, and then we would respond to it fresh. We wouldn't have really seen it before the meeting, but we could do it that way.
Well, it needs to be included in the meeting packet that
Well, we
that
can put,
gets sent out,
the goals
right?
are right here, so the changes don't have to be included because they can be discussed.
Right.
Because, so what, would you guys rather try to submit them before the packet deadline, or?
I'm happy to try and get them done by Thursday.
Same here.
That's gonna be tough for me, I tried it tomorrow, but,
I'm having tests all day Thursday. So Thursday was out for me, from 7 in the morning on for the whole day, so the Framingham Heart Study.
yeah, it's gonna be tired.
No, it's not. It's a volunteer thing, but it's years. My grandmother did it, my mother did it, and they count on it, and I said okay to the appointment. I don't have to
Are
cancel.
you able to do them tomorrow, though?
I can work on it tomorrow, yeah.
Okay, so our goal will be to send them to town staff by Thursday, then, so that they could potentially be
Okay.
suggested changes, right? But, and it sounds like we all agree that they're all still relevant issues, we just might need to tweak some. Okay, so, can someone email, could town staff email Shai-Dul and tell him, or?
We'll email Shadul right now.
Okay. He says he's not feeling well, that's why he didn't come. So I don't know if he'll feel well enough to do it tomorrow. Okay, I think then we will be on to liaison invites. Right?
Yep.
Okay, does anyone have any liaison reports or invites?
Do we know if the Trails Committee is meeting, the TCMC? Because I've looked a couple of times and I've emailed and I haven't heard.
Yeah, we'll check with Peter. I haven't had,
The TCMC,
yeah.
if she finds it and I didn't find it, I'll be completely humbled, but, it can happen.
Okay, so no liaison reports or?
None for me.
I just wanted to,
Oh, yeah, October 15th.
all right, I'll look when I get home, but I'm going to write that down.
Any other future agenda items?
I just talked to Tax Review Committee for a few minutes, and they're doing well this year, so.
Good.
Financially, they're doing pretty well. Good thing to know.
What's that? I'm sorry?
The Tax Relief Committee.
Good.
Oh, excellent.
The MWRA lost a member just within the last, I don't know, a few days. And so I'm waiting for confirmation of the next meeting. It was Paul Slipper. He's been on it for 15 years, so they're kind of...
So my only other future, it's not exactly a future agenda item, but I thought the PowerPoints that you guys presented at both the town and the schools presented at our budget meeting were really good. And could we get copies of those sent to us, or are they on the town website? I forgot to check.
Have they been posted yet?
Because when we see them on the screen at the meeting, it's a lot to take in at once, so if we can have it to review.
Yeah, we will email copies to the board as well as make sure that they are posted on the,
Okay, and if we could get the
website.
superintendents too, that would be good. She
Yeah, that
had,
would be really helpful. I
Yeah.
agree.
and just to note for everyone, there was another Elmwood School Building Committee forum tonight that was recorded on HCAM, so same time as our meeting, but everybody can watch that later if they have.
And there's another one on the 2nd.
Another one
So
on
I was
November
looking for that myself, because I haven't been able to go to them.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
Keep an eye out for
Sneaky
those.
Trails Committee is on Saturday mornings, that's why I didn't find them,
They meet on Saturday mornings?
apparently.
Oh, I didn't think we could do that. Okay.
But thank you, that was helpful. I also wanted to say, I arrived a little late, unfortunately, to that joint meeting, and I went back and watched it. It's another opportunity, I think, to thank you and the financial team, but Mr. Kamala in particular, for making sure that we talk about all of the financial needs and the financial implications and the considerations, especially for folks who do not find it as easy to be financially comfortable and fluent in this town. And I think that as we go forward, I want to make sure that we continue to be mindful of all of our residents on the continuum so that we're making thoughtful decisions that affect everybody. I also during that meeting, was reminded that we have a economic support structure within our public schools, which is sort of an ongoing concern of mine, that anybody who attends a public school has to seek some sort of assistance in order to fully participate. And part and parcel of all of that, most of us know, is that for the folks that qualify for assistance, there's, that's the tip of the iceberg. There's a large number of people who struggle to access the benefits and services for their kids because it's costly and expensive, or struggle to meet their basic needs, expenses in town. Not just the people who sort of hit the measure of the list, but all those other people that are close to the measure and make really difficult decisions, often our seniors, but not always, but make difficult decisions between, food, fuel, medical care.
That was one of my new categories under, the mental health of the town.
Yep.
As everything increases, these seniors' salaries are not increasing commensurate, even close, with the grocery prices and what really bothers me too is that I don't want them leaving their homes. If they have a house, I want them somehow to be able to stay in that home as long as they want to, because every house that's sold brings in a family,
Who we love.
and the town expands. So, not that I mind the town expanding so much, but there's got to be some kind of way we can help people in need who own their own homes. And the exemption isn't the bottom line, is pretty much $20,000. You have to only get $20,000 to get the elderly exemption. So maybe we can start working on the legislature, petitioning them to increase that, and certain things like that. I know the commissioner, you can vote to increase it, but it's only by a figure that's given to you by the commissioner. So, it's real hard to do. That's all, that was the thought I had.
Okay.
Work with our legislators and see what we can do.
So I think we're ready for us to adjourn, if there's nothing else.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.